Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Perlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Perlman.
Hello. We're going to be talking about transportation with my guest, Margaret Bolter. She is the Market Development Analyst at Zeem Solutions. She has been an intern for Wildlife Trade Data and Technology with the International Fund for Animal Welfare, and she has served as a corporate environment, social, and governance researcher at the University of Michigan's Department of Organizational Studies. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Nancy. It's a pleasure to be here.
The transportation sector is the largest source of carbon emissions, and we need to try and transition to zero-emission vehicles. Not necessarily electric vehicles, but there are many different solutions to try to improve our transportation. Your company has reached out to over 13,000 fleet operators nationwide, most of them with fewer than 20 vehicles, with something called Transportation as a Service, or TAS. What is that?
Transportation as a Service, in our case, is a business model that allows operators to use zero-emission vehicles without being responsible for the full upfront cost of the vehicles and charging equipment, which can be a prohibitory cost for a lot of fleets, especially small fleets. Zeem Solutions is a company that is really trying to decarbonize commercial transportation class 3 to 8 vehicles. We currently have a depot near LAX in Inglewood, and really our mission is to transform the way fleets operate by providing an affordable solution for zero-emission transportation that improves air quality within our communities.
Can you explain this concept of vehicle to everything?
Yeah, so vehicle to everything is an idea that a vehicle can be used as a mobile battery. It really is an exciting opportunity to help our grid and ensure that vehicles are good stewards of the grid. So the idea is that vehicles can send power to and from the grid to buildings, to other pieces of equipment that need to be energized. It's really exciting. Recently, Zeem joined a Vehicle to Everything Memorandum of Understanding, which was put together by the Department of Transportation. It's really exciting because it brings together different industry players like utilities, vehicle manufacturers, and charging manufacturers, and customers like Zeem. Vehicle to Everything has an opportunity to bring power to the grid when it's stressed, as well as monetize some of the vehicle assets beyond their standard use.
You maintain that small fleet operators do not inherently oppose electrification, but rather they're struggling to overcome the myriad economic and structural barriers which policies sometimes exacerbate. You're trying to make sure that this transition is affordable and easy for them?
Yeah, so really what we're trying to do is create a model that allows fleets to go electric as easy as possible and helps them save money upfront, as well as not worry about the problems associated with installing infrastructure and buying a vehicle and syncing up that timeline. So what we really do is take care of everything from the moment the drivers pick up their vehicle at the start of their shift, they run their duty cycle and return them at the end of the shift, and everything in between. So maintenance, charging, parking, cleaning, all of that is done by Zeem, so the fleets don't have to worry about it. This model was developed in conversation with many fleets.
You're in Southern California. Is this going to be expanded nationwide, or are other companies doing similar kinds of services as you are?
transportation as a service and other business models that are in the same vein of as a service has been around for a while in multiple different industries. It's really about simplifying things for fleets and making sure that small fleets, in our case, are not left behind in the transition. One of the things coming down the road for fleets and for clean transportation is the Advanced Clean Truck Rule, which has been adopted in California. It requires manufacturers who sell medium and heavy-duty vehicles to sell zero-emission vehicles as an increasing percentage of their annual sales between a designated time frame. The act, which is the Advanced Clean Truck Rule, originated in California but can be adopted by other states under the authority of the Clean Air Act. And so right now, California requires that by 2035, 55% of Class B, 2B to 3 truck sales are zero emissions, 75% of Class 4 through 8 straight trucks are zero emissions, and 40% of tractor sales are zero emissions. There's also reporting requirement tied in there. Some other states that are in the process of adopting the rule or are planning to adopt the rule are Maine, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Washington. So Zeem is really looking nationwide to help these fleets transition to zero emission and be at the forefront of clean transportation.
How many fleets are out there? How many are big companies? How many are small companies? I recently took the freeway toward the Long Beach port, and it was bumper-to-bumper trucks. Are they individually owned? Are you reaching out to those individuals, or are you only reaching out to companies that own a few?
We are reaching out to all fleets and have multiple different types of fleets. We really do focus on making sure our solution works for small fleets, but it also works for large fleets because it simplifies the process of going electric. We find that most fleets are small operators who own anywhere from 1 to 10 trucks, I believe is about 90% of the market segment that we've seen in our outbound calls. These small fleets face barriers such as not owning the land that they domicile their vehicles on, and so installing charging infrastructure is really costly, and with a short-term lease, it doesn't make sense to put all of that investment in. There's multiple types of charging, so for light-duty vehicles and passenger vehicles, a lot of the time you only need L2 charging, which is a type of low-power charging that takes a longer time and delivers a smaller amount of charge over a long time, whereas we see a lot of commercial vehicles really need to rely on fast charging, which is DC fast charging or level 3 charging. That infrastructure can be extremely expensive to install per fleet.
Let's look at the costs. Are you talking about conversion of current trucks to electric? And how much does that cost? How much does it cost to charge at your facility? What are the economics involved in changing over to electrification using places like yours?
Zeem really offers a flat monthly cost for both the charging and the vehicle, and there are several different options depending on the needs of the specific fleet, but that monthly price is determined by the mileage of the vehicle, the type of the vehicle, and the amount of charging that they might need. Fleet operators don't have to worry about fluctuating fuel prices because the cost of their charging and all of their fueling is bundled into that flat monthly price.
Most of the big trucks have been diesel, and diesel trucks disproportionately burden disadvantaged communities with things like toxic pollutants. A typical diesel truck emits 9 times more carbon annually than a typical passenger vehicle. So diesel seems to not be the best source of fuel for trucks, is it?
Diesel is really harmful to local environments, both the people that live there and the community surrounding that, the natural community. Diesel trucks produce NOx emissions and particulate matter emissions as well as carbon emissions, but that particulate matter and NOx emissions are really damaging. They can cause problems like asthma and other health conditions. So Zeem depots are really beneficial to local communities because we offer emissions reductions by displacing traditional diesel trucks. Those reductions can come in the form of NOx reductions, carbon reduction, and particulate matter reductions. A lot of the times we're locating our depots in disadvantaged communities to really maximize the benefit of those air quality reductions. What's really interesting too is going back to the ACT rule, which is the Advanced Clean Truck Rule. A lot of these policies are really targeting emissions reductions in certain transportation segments first before bringing that regulation to the wider transportation market. And so a similar rule to the ACT rule is the Advanced Clean Fleet Rule, which is going to regulate fleets such as drayage and last mile delivery first, because those segments currently are the most feasible to decarbonize. And so there's really a lot of attention on last mile delivery and port activity, drayage activity, decarbonizing that. So Zeem really is locating in these transportation hubs, really looking at drayage and other appropriate applications. Currently, long-haul trucking for Class 8 vehicles is difficult because of the lack of charging infrastructure across the U.S., as well as battery sizes and range, but there are a lot of really incredible applications for short-haul trucking with zero-emission technology. And I'm really confident that in the near future, we're going to be able to find a solution that works really well for Class 8 trucks as well for long-haul trucking.
How many trucks are out there on the roads in the United States, and how many have become electrified, and when do you think that we're going to eliminate diesel trucks?
So I don't know how many trucks are out there, but I do know that the Advanced Clean Truck Rule is looking to sunset the sale of diesel trucks in California. And so by 2035, a lot of sales of zero-emission trucks are going to be required to be zero-emission, and that is going to cascade through the industry, and there's going to be a lot of trucks that are required to be zero-emission. And so really what we're trying to do is make sure that that transition is as painless as possible, and that there are solutions that work for fleet operators, and the small fleets won't be left behind in this transition to zero emission. In addition to the Advanced Clean Truck Rule, there are incentive programs like HVIP, which is the Hybrid Vehicle Incentive Program. That is a point-of-sale voucher that is really coming up to help these fleets transition to electric. However, we've found that sometimes these incentives can be difficult for fleets to access because they don't meet certain requirements or don't have time for the lengthy application process.
It's great to know that there are companies like yours working on solutions to our transportation problems, because there are so many different aspects of transportation that needs to be changed. I want to thank you so very much for letting us know about these new opportunities. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you.
I have been speaking with Margaret Bolter, who is the Market Development Analyst at Zeem Solutions. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Perlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.